We'd ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would ask for a roll call, please.
Here. Margaret, yes. Here. Joseph Taylor.
Present.
Steve Mitchell. Marletta Seats.
Present.
Lisa Gully.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. We have a quorum. At this time, I would entertain approval for the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as written.
I have a motion. I would entertain a second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Okay. Joseph Taylor.
Yes.
Marletta Seats.
Yes.
Martha Mahoney. Angelica McGowan, yes. And Becky Gass. Yes.
Motion carries. At this time on our agenda, item D is public comments, which is allowed for 30 minutes. And under board policy, I will be reading a statement. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in item D. Pursuant to board policy 0167.3 G2, the board president or presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Board policy 0167.3 G2 also provides that the board president or presiding officer may request any individual to leave the meeting when that person behaves in a manner that is disruptive of the orderly conduct of the meeting. So at this time, we would ask anyone to come to the podium and give us your name and address, and you're allowed 3 minutes per person.
How you guys doing today? I am DeAndre Hunt, 1573 Broadway. And my question is, what is your vision for this school district? I believe the Bible says that the man without vision, people shall perish. So I would need to know your vision for the students in our school district.
Okay, we will get something to you, sir, right? We do have a mission statement, and we do have a vision statement, and we do have state and federal guidelines. So we will get that to you, and you can give her your name and address if you would, please.
I do have a second question, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Okay, so what are you doing to benefit the kids more than anything else?
would you repeat that, sir?
What are you doing to benefit the kids of the school district more than anything else?
Okay.
As far as like going forward with education, resources and all that.
I do believe that the district with the Michigan Department of Education is going to roll out a plan for the district, and they've always had a mission and a vision statement. So, sir, moving forward, I believe that to the best of the district's ability, we're going to look at academic achievement and everything that is outlined within school code of conduct and what is required by the Michigan Department of Education, state and federal law. So I do believe that it will line up with the vision that you'll be getting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Benton Harbor Area Schools has a partnership agreement, and I think that the agreement is online and available to the public. in that agreement, it is real specific as it pertains to academic performance, what are the benchmarks that the district is adhering to, the target areas. It also outlines financial stability that the district is charged to meet. So I think when you talk about where the district is going, it's public and it's laid out. And I think 2 board meetings ago, we had a presentation of some achievement data thus far, and the board will continue to get those updated. But it is outlined in a partnership agreement that is available to anyone. All right, thank you.
Anyone else would like to address the board at this time? If not, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a presentation of a progressional certificate to the boys basketball team and coach. Superintendent, if you would, please.
Thank you, President Seats. What I'd like to do is call Corey Sterling up along with the team, all the coaches. If you guys can come up to the front so that you can receive a certificate. So, on behalf of United States Senator Debbie Saginaw, we would like to present you this certificate. So, because of your hard work, your dedication, but the education term grit, you stayed, you had a goal, you focused on that goal, you stuck with it, you had that target, and despite what challenges and barriers that you faced this season, you still faced that goal with, I would say, with resolve, with great stature as young boys, young men, as you have grown into. So we, on behalf of the state's, United States Senator, I want to present you with this certificate. The certificate reads, Certificate of Congressional Recognition presented April 12, 2018 to Benton Harbor High School boys basketball team for outstanding sportsmanship and winning the 2018 Class B boys basketball state championship, and is signed by U.S. Senator Debbie Saginaw. Commend this team because no matter where they've been, the majority of them have been present. So I was at a church service, the majority of them were present at that service. So as they're getting these awards, I don't know if you're tired of it, I'm tired of all the recognition. All right, so as they're getting these awards, you know, Coach Sterling reaches out to them and they show up, and so do the coaches. So I want to commend you on that. So, all right,
Thank you, Superintendent. Thanks to the team. Next item on the agenda, Brookfield Chrysler and Jeep. Eddie Marshall and Mr. Brookfield, are they in the audience? If not, moving on to the next item, CPR presentation, American Heart Association.
Hello. My name is Harold Wheatley. I'm from Grand Rapids, and we are from the West Michigan American Heart Association. We are so excited that Benton Harbor School District accepted a CPR in schools kits from our sponsor, Perigo. The AHA has been working with local businesses like Perigo to place kits in every high school to support the 2017 mandate that went out to require CPR to be taught in health class. Through that law, 100,000 new faculty and students will be trained each year, and that's putting 100,000 lifesavers out in Michigan. 80% of cardiac arrest actually happens outside of a hospital and in the home of a loved one. So having those people know that life-saving skill is a massive need, and it's something that we've been trying to move as an organization across the United States. So we're really excited that Michigan has taken on that acceptance of teaching that to the students of Michigan. And I'm going to introduce Margot here, who can share a little bit more about what other ways that the schools can be involved with the AHA and what we can do for you guys.
Okay, hi. Like I said, hello everyone. I'm Margot. I am the Youth Market Director in Southwest Michigan. So most of the schools participate in Jump Rope for Heart, Hoops for Heart, and Red Outs and things of that sort. So my job is to get the kids at a younger age to start understanding the ways they can take care of their heart and how to also obviously be philanthropic and help people along the way. So I just want to offer up if your schools, and I don't know if there's any principals here in the audience, if you are interested in learning about Jump Rope for Heart or Hoops for Heart, I can come in and do an assembly and speak to the kids about those things, and I would be more than happy to do that. So that is it. But thank you so much for everything that you do for the students and educating them and getting them to help others as well.
So the kits that you guys received from us have these dolls in it to allow you to do the compressions. There's a clicker inside that if you are giving the compressions correctly, that you'll hear the click. If anybody would like to try this out, we would more than welcome to try them out.
Anyone willing?
I think we should get at least one person from the board to come try this out.
I'll tell you, it's a workout. I didn't realize what a workout it was until.
But the kits, they come with DVDs, they come up with the mats for the students to kneel on so that they can be in the proper position to give CPR correctly. And again, the kits are filled with these dolls. Each kit can train thousands of faculty and students every single year. Is there not one person? You smiled, so you.
I'm not a board member, I'm just the finance guy.
Any one person.
Look at the finance
So you want to put the
guy.
palm of your hand right in the center of the chest, and you want to lock the other hand behind it, and you want to press 2 inches into that chest until you hear that click. There you go. So you want to push hard and fast. And you can think of the song "Staying Alive" because that's the rhythm of the compressions that you want to get. So we want to present this tag. This is for the kit that you guys have already received. It has our sponsor Parago on it, as well as our information. And so is there somebody that I can present this to, hand this to attach to the kit?
Did you guys,
so much.
I'll leave you this with my card, so if anybody wanted to contact me, I don't know who. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great summer.
Next item on the agenda, field trip to Chicago for GDLS.
Good evening.
Good evening, the president, seats, members of the board, administrators and educators. We are here to ask permission for a field trip to Chicago, and I have and I'm going to give you a copy of the proposal for this field trip. We are planning this field trip for June 5th, 2018. And the goal is to visit Legoland and the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. And basically, in the packet, you can see We answered all the questions that the form requires for a field trip outside of the state. So I'd like to know if you have any questions or any concerns. Mrs. Collins, one of our teachers for the fifth, she has many years of experience taking students to Chicago, to the museum. And this time, we would like to take that opportunity. I also live in Chicago and I was an educator in the Chicago area for 11 years, so I know the area as well.
Are there any questions from the board? Mr. Diaz, yes, Superintendent.
I do want to add that this was a trip that we discussed with our state consultant from MDE regarding title funds. So this is a fully funded title trip that would pay for the full registration or interest fees to the parks and then also for transportation.
I would like to add to that the two places where we're going to visit, they look us very well as a school in the needs of the kids. So they give us big discounts in both places. So for the amount that we are going, really, those kids are really can go.
I don't have any questions. I just would say that from all the field trips we've seen this year, I think these two would be my favorite because all students get engaged with Legos, right? It's hands-on and it also encourages the mind. And when you talk about science and industry, I remember going there a long time ago as a kid, right? And it was the most awesome place I've ever been. I went like 10 times. So it's a great field trip. And thank you.
And I just would like to add that I too, having not lived very far from Chicago, went to the museum many times, took my children, my grandchildren. I've also been to Legoland, and it's awesome.
We are connecting this since Whirlpool is working very closely with us for next year. They would like to partner with us to start a Lego robotics team in our building. So that's something that we want our students to have an exposure to in preparation for next year.
So I was looking at the number of students, it says 125, and then it says 6 to 8 chaperones. So if 6 chaperones attended, that means like 20 per chaperone, and if 8 is 15. I think that's.
Yes, we are taking all our teachers, and then these are 6 to 8 parents that we are inviting.
Okay.
Yes, we have a meeting this week, Thursday, and we are going to ask for volunteers because they have to go through the process. So we want to we want to make it, available for parents who go through the process and they are cleared at Central. So these are additional support.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No more questions? Okay, thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is field trip to Florida for the young men's basketball team. You would come to Florida.
Good evening, board. Coach Corey Sterling, along with Mike Gillespie, and some of the boys behind us. We're here to ask for approval for a state championship trip to Disney World, June 15th, and return June 17th. Purpose of the trip, team bonding. They will always be teammates for life. Dave Mack won the championship 53 years ago, and that team still do stuff together. So we want to use this as a lifetime experience for the kids. Recent events, kids conducted themselves well in the hotel rooms. just going back to team camp, either JV, freshman, even when we went to Breslin, these guys always, follow the rules. So I think we want to reward them with this special trip. We will have 8 chaperones. So the ratio will be, again, 2 to 1.
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5 to 1. And we'll make sure the rotation will be all night. Other than that, it will be, it asks how many number of school days they will miss. There will be none because it will be after the graduation. 11 of our seniors have already been graduated, really just, preparing for college. But we will have 4 returning players attend this trip. Donations, be all private donations. So far, we already raised $23,000. We've been getting the money over to Kim Lindsay, and we've been following board policy. The trip is very similar to when our football team did it 2 years ago. It's no different. We fly out of O'Hare, and we conduct ourselves like state championship players.
Coach Sterling, stop, pause right there. Mr. Lindsay, could you give everyone an update on what you have gotten in so far? This was created like earlier, so Mr. Lindsay has some more information.
Yeah, so another donation of $1,000 is going to be approved this evening at another organization's meeting. So they're down to $634 remaining to be raised. So this has all happened in the span of about 5 or 6 days.
Absolutely, yes. It's truly been a blessing, and we've been getting a lot of support, without really going public with it. So, any questions you guys might have?
Trustee.
Yep.
I am expecting some checks and have some checks, and I can tell you you're over.
Okay, absolutely. So our goal with the remaining funds is just, again, put it in activity fund because we're trying to schedule team counts as we speak to try to win state championship again. Get the boys ready. Not to mention, again, all the boys have great grades and they all attending college. So next question.
No questions, just a comment to the seniors. When y'all go, no, think y'all grown. Y'all gotta listen to the coaches still, follow the rules. Just because you graduated doesn't mean you're exempt. So I just want to point that out.
I'd like to say, I have most of the parents' number on my phone, and I know most of you all. They know that, we talk frequently.
Absolutely. I already told them again, I'm sticking my neck out, I know they graduated, they gonna think, but we'll be on these guys. The goal is to go down and just have a great time. A lot of our kids really don't get out of the city or even go to Disney World, so it's an opportunity, and then we was, when me and the superintendent talked about it, we just thought it was a great idea, and once Wilson stepped up with the 80% of the funds, we was like, it might can happen. It was kind of bleak at first, but any more questions?
We're just waiting for our secretary to prepare staff report so that we can vote and support it tonight. We were not prepared to vote tonight, but the staff report has just been prepared. So thank you for your presentation. And at this time, we're going to make a motion. And I'm sorry.
That's not wordy.
It's fine. Okay, if we will read the staff report, superintendent, please, so we can approve the request for the trip.
Yes, President. Request for varsity basketball team to go to Florida. Reason for board approval: the board shall approve field trips and other district-sponsored trips which are planned to keep students out of the district overnight or longer or out of state. Facts and analysis: the varsity state championship basketball team wants to take the trip to Florida for team spirit. Board policy 2340, recommended action of the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the varsity state championship basketball team to attend Disney World in Florida.
Okay, thank you, Madam Superintendent. At this time, I will entertain a motion from the board to accept the request for varsity basketball team to go to Florida.
So moved.
I have a motion. I need a support. Support it. I have a motion and a support. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Angelica McCollum. Yes. Margaret Gass.
Yes.
Joseph Taylor.
Yes.
Lisa Gully.
Yes.
And Marletta Seats.
Yes.
And Martha Momini. Martha. Martha?
Oh, she on there? Oh, right, she was on the phone.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Motion carries.
Okay, so, I just want to say, enjoy yourself, like, to the singers, right? This is a life-changing event. You guys will remember this for the rest of your life, which I could have been a state champion, so that's awesome, right? And enjoy this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next item on the agenda is band performance, Cedar Point. That is Mr. Evans.
Hello. How you guys doing today? Right. I'm here to ask for approval for the band to go to Cedar Point on June 2nd. And the reason for this trip is that we've had really good, successful year this year. We've gone to Flint and done a hard competition, and we wound up and brought 5 trophies home, first place. A couple of our students did the district solo ensemble and qualified for state solo ensemble. We had 1 student go and receive a 2nd division rating. He missed the 1st division rating by 1 point. That was just, he had to work harder on his sight reading. But I think this is a really good trip for us. We went last year and the students really had a fun time. And so Cedar Point actually invited us to come back this year. As far as the students paying, the trip cost, well, for the kids to get into Cedar Point, because we're performing there, it's going to be $35 per student. But we've done fundraisers, so each student will only pay us $20, and that's the bus ride down. That's a brand new shirt and admittance into the park. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions from the board to Mr. Evans at this time?
No, I was just gonna comment, the band has improved so much, they sound so well, and I just enjoy, you know, even though they're a smaller number, their sound is huge, it's big, and you've done a great job.
Thank you, thank you. They work really hard. They really work hard.
So I got a question.
Yes.
You ready for Saturday?
Oh, yeah.
So I just got a request, because I normally sit across. So turn it up right there.
Can we turn it up?
Turn it up right there, right across from Whirlpool.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, right when we come across the bridge.
You got it.
All right, we'll play that fight song first, so everybody know we coming. All right. Anything else? Okay.
And this will be on next week's agenda for approval.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, Saturday.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, special education presentation, Ms. Hartman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to give you an update on how we're doing with some of the compliance issues. We still have the 2 uncorrected compliance, the D9, which is part of the measurable goals and objectives, and making sure that we have all of the information available to the parents in a timely manner. As part of the corrective action, there are several things that we need to do. And we have been in-servicing the staff since the beginning of the school year. So, and currently, we have professional development monthly for all of the staff, and the administration are invited. What has happened recently is that some of the administration have not been able to meet at the professional development, so we're going around and meeting with them one-on-one to make sure that they have the appropriate information. One of the uncorrected and an ongoing issue is the significant discrepancy of students who are suspended more than 10 days, and that is based on the race and ethnicity. Last month, I believe, I reviewed the fact that the previous year we were at 4.35% with our students here in Benton Harbor. And that was this year. We recently got a letter, and I mentioned it last month, that we are now up to, for that particular group, Black students were up to 5.44%, which is above the 3.6 that this is the targeted rate that we're not supposed to go above. And for Hispanic students, it's 5.88. Now, one of the things to keep in mind when we're talking about suspensions of the students who have disabilities is that special ed does not suspend. This is an ongoing dialogue that goes with the building administration in terms of consistency, making sure that we get timely information, and that they consider the students' disabilities. Because when we're talking about students who are suspended more than 10 days, we're talking about the compensatory ed, we're talking about violating the state compliance issues. And like I said, that's an ongoing thing. To give an example, I went to one of the buildings today and actually met with a parent for another reason, but in terms of going through some of the suspension letters, the data was incorrect. So I had to get stuff corrected. So that is an ongoing concern because that was one of the issues with the state, is that we do not have accurate data. And the parents don't have accurate data. So we'll continue in servicing the administration, we'll continue in servicing our staff, but keeping in mind that the actual suspensions are done by the building. One of the things I also wanted to add, we have indoctrinated Ms. Robinson into the world of catamaran and compliance. And so she is getting information. I gave her a strand report in 2015, I believe, and I pulled the rest of them. And this is a report that actually lists every single category that our state looks at in terms of compliance for every single district. And what keeps coming to the top is the issue regarding suspension for us. That's a yearly thing, trying to stay on top of that, trying to get those numbers down. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Superintendent?
I do want to add that Ms. Kelly Kendricks-Potts is here as well from MDE, that we do meet every other week. We have a phone conference, Pam is on the phone call, giving us updates, kind of giving us a heads up on what we need to address if we could be falling behind with something. Right quick, she's immediately calling. I got a call Monday saying, hey, this needs to be done. So I do want to commend that type of support that we are receiving from Ms. Potts and also from Autumn on the RISA side as well. So that is proving to be a true collaboration.
Just want to let you know that we are going to have what's called a virtual monitoring, and that is coming up. That's new. They've not done that before. So we actually have 8 students' records that I'm still uploading so that the state can actually review that and see if we have crossed all our T's and dotted all of our I's. Another compliance issue is what's called the B13, which is the transition plans. That is the plan that we're trying to get students ready for either employment or college. And that has to be included in every IEP for a student who's going to be 16 until they graduate. As of May 4th, we are going to be monitored on that. We actually have 24 student records that are going to be reviewed. Last year, we were at 66.67%. The transition plans were in the IEPs, but the information was not measurable or wasn't accurate. And when you have some of the certified staff who are sitting down at the high school level, trying to write goals and objectives for and assisting the long-term subs who are you two writing that and being part of the training. We actually reviewed every IEP for students in the high school to double check to see what was missing. So fingers crossed and a sense of we're ready. We're going to be meeting and reviewing those 24 records starting on Friday.
Any questions, trustee?
So I have a question for the superintendent while you're present. What are the consequences and repercussions for the adults who violate our special needs students' rights, right? Because if we look at Grand Rapids right now, they're asking for the resignation of the superintendent for Grand Rapids Public Schools for the same issues, right? So how are we gonna make sure that this doesn't happen again? Because not only do we not want the lawsuits, but we want to make sure that all of our students are treated with the same respect and dignity. And it seems to me that sometimes they're not. So what are going to be some of the consequences? Because as you talked about the PD, right? So as we give these grown-ups PD, then they should understand it because we can't let it keep trickling down affecting our young people, right? Because the grown-ups already have their degrees or whatever. Our students are just beginning. So how do we counter that with some disciplinary reactions for non-compliance?
So what we have in our arsenal tool is we have reprimands that we have. We also have development plans that we put into the teacher evaluation tools as well. And then also just mandates of attending these meetings and making sure that they're following the plan of what's actually happening. So those are the two things I know that we can do with the development plans for teachers and then also reprimands.
One of the things that's also going to assist us with doing all of that is the addition of having the administrators be at the IEPs, because that ownership of the student is going to be at a heightened level. When you're talking about, I'm coming in, I know what's going on, I'm talking to the staff about the goals and objectives, what are our concerns, and making sure that that information is in the IEP. In addition, making sure that we get as many parents to the table as possible. That's an ongoing problem, but making sure that they are informed prior to, that they have that 10-day window, that notification window. When I started in the district, it was nothing, and there's still a lot of bad habits out there. There's nothing to call a parent and say, I'm gonna have a meeting in a couple days, can you make it? No, they have to have that 10-day notice. And that's part of what the violations were in terms of compliance. We would go in and find that the letters, the suspension letters, the dates were off. We would find that the parents either did not receive the notice or it was dated a couple days before and there was no waiver that the parents signed that says, yes, this is okay with me. So making sure that the staff are understanding, and before I came into the meeting today, I'm constantly checking the software, the website for the Illuminate, to making sure that we are not going past that deadline in terms of the ID. And I contacted one of the staff saying, hey, your IP is still open, you need to close it because today is the deadline. It will be overdue tomorrow if you don't close it today, even though it was open several days ago. And again, part of that issue is when you have that meeting, you may open it early and sit and actually have the meeting later. I may open the IEP to put in information last week, but our meeting is not scheduled for the day. When we have that meeting, we're supposed to close it because the information is apparent. We're not supposed to go back and change anything. So to make sure that all of the information is in there. And one of the problems that we ran into, I think it was the first year I came, was that the IEPs were not correct. And Dr. Covington and I were told by several members of the state, you need to review all of the IEPs before they're closed. Well, that can cause some lag time. So that does not happen anymore. It's, you have the meeting and on a daily basis, I'm checking to make sure that if on the dashboard it has so many meetings are due within 10 days, so many meetings are due within 30 days, so many meetings are due within 90 days. So we go through and we double check to make sure that they're on that master IEP schedule, to make sure that they are scheduled. And if they're not, the word goes out, we need to have this scheduled as soon as possible.
Vice President Gully has a question.
Okay, I was wondering, I heard you say that suspension letter data is incorrect and we do not have accurate data.
For some of the suspension letters that.
Can I ask the question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Hold on. So, well, my question is, how is it that they are inputting, is it because they're not doing it when the incident happens? I just don't understand how trained, certified individuals who work in the department are not providing the accurate information to the parents, and the data is inaccurate, because I've heard that consistently throughout the district, from leadership, that we have inaccurate data, we can't measure anything. So I'm just wondering, how do we come to that point when we have PDs, we have an administrator, we have a staff, we have staff meetings? Where is the level, where is the breakdown of understanding and communication?
In terms of the suspension letters?
Period.
Okay.
Inaccurate data, IEP is not complete. Everything is just like, nobody knows anything.
We've got some staff who are focused, and they do an excellent job. We have staff that are not as focused and don't do an excellent job. One of the things that I have going right now, the teacher consultant that's at the high school is doing a lot of the monitoring of the IEPs, making sure that things are scheduled, making sure that the information is in there correctly. The 2 certified staff in the high school are actually actively involved with the long-term substitute teachers that are in the classrooms and making sure that that information is now accurate. The same goes for ACA. ACA has a person who, even though she does carry a caseload, has some additional assistance and allowed to be able to do the IEPs, making sure that the information is in there, notifying people. My secretary of the office, actually, we have a master schedule, it's a Google Doc, that everybody puts their IEP information in, so it's scheduled for the 1st at 1 o'clock, and then she goes through and she actually sends out the letters, and they need to be in there 10 days prior to the meeting, and she actually mails those out. I look at the timelines of the dashboard and Illuminate to see what's out there and what to do now. The problem that we run into, it's getting better, but the problem that we're running into and the problem that has gotten us into some trouble are the suspension letters that are coming from the buildings to parents. And the information that goes from the building administrator or whoever's doing the suspension and completing that information, those suspension letters, and getting that information to the special ed staff who have to schedule the manifestation determinations and keep track of all of that information. On a couple of occasions, I've talked to the staff and they've said, I haven't gotten the letter yet, and I know he's suspended. The call has gone home to mom, he's out for 2 days, but I haven't gotten the letter yet. And that is something that we're chasing. Like I said, it's gotten better because there were some parents who were not getting letters at all. But it's still a compliance issue when we're supposed to give them, by the special ed laws, we're supposed to give them this information in a timely fashion.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the suspension letters are not prepared by your staff.
Correct.
This is building issues.
Correct. But it impacts what we do.
Yes. Having done some of these hearings, I understand, because it's not just with kids with IDPs.
Yeah, I went through 4 letters for a parent today and actually corrected them. And then gave them to the building and said we need to get the correct information. In addition, because that young man has been out, even though it's separate issues in terms of change of placement, we still owe him 13 days worth of time out of school. So planning that and making sure that that gets taken care of and making sure he has his homework, we have a certified teacher who's able to provide the services for him is also an issue, and it's across the board.
Board member, Ms. Gass, I think you hit the nail on the head. My experience has been that when you run across these issues in special ed about accuracy of reporting, it's a problem in general, but special ed has a trigger that picks it up a lot quicker, and it's through their compliance process. So it's being monitored by entity external of the district, whereas your normal suspension data doesn't get that level of scrutiny, but it is a human deficiency at the building level.
Now, one of the things that I've been delighted to see is that the suspension rates for our students has gone down this year. The other side of that coin is the information is now being put into the system correctly in terms of suspensions, and it goes up to the state. Whereas last year, it wasn't as accurate. So our numbers may be comparable when it's looked at next year, and keeping in mind anytime the state looks at our numbers, they're looking at last year's information. So when we're compiling this information for next year, or I get the reports for next year, I'm thinking that the numbers may be comparable, but that's because our data system has been cleaned up to the extent that the accuracy is better. But it's that personal one-on-one touch for our parents that is still an issue.
Any more questions? I would like to, based on what the board members have stated, I would like to ensure that if we're still having these errors, that it's reflected in evaluations. Because we get a lot of highly effective evaluations, and then we hear further down the road that there were major errors in reporting and just filling out simple slips that are impacting our compliance in several areas. So I would hope that the people who are making these errors, that it's reflected in their evaluation and these issues are corrected moving forward. Any more comments or questions for Ms. Harper? Thank you, Ms. Harper.
Thank you.
Is there any comments from MDE concerning our special education while we're at this junction? Okay, thank you. All right, welcome, Dr. Teasley. At this time on our agenda, we are at Bear and Risa, General Fund Information. We have a resolution. Yes, sir. One of our trustees thought you was an attorney. That's how often we see you.
Don't call me that. My father would say, don't swear.
Who's the attorney? Thank you, Mr. Ivers.
Well, it's that time of year again, it's budget time, and appreciate the opportunity just to give you some very high level, should be enough for everyone, hopefully. I just wanted to show you some of the history of, all right, if you notice on your tax bill, you'll notice there are two county-wide taxes. There's special education millage and a general education millage. And every year, Bear and Risa collects that on a county-wide level, and we're very hopeful to be able to return some of that money to local districts. We actually budget to return all the Act 18 dollars, which are the special education dollars. And then we have a formula to return excess fund equity, meaning that we withhold 10% for our own fund balance, and we disperse the rest to the districts based upon your special education count every year. So that information is submitted to the state on your, it's called the Special Ed 4096 form. So it's, we're happy to return that. I just wanted to show you the histories, and this is just, I just went back about 9 years, but this goes back before that. But in the 9 years that I have recorded here for you, Berry Reese has returned $4.7 million to the district for excess to help defray some of your special education costs. Now, I know that Mrs. Harper was just up here a minute ago, and we're actually helping the district with some special ed compliance issues right now. So we are withholding some of that money until those issues are resolved for this year. I just at a very high level, we have overall, our budget's $45 million. That's just kind of a rough estimate, but for this year, school boards are asked, we ask school boards to approve our general fund budget. Like I said, we have a special ed and a general fund budget. We have anticipated a 2% property tax revenue increase this year, which is a little higher than in the past. State aid remains unchanged, and while local districts, I'll just put a plug in for next time you talk to your legislator, while local districts get a foundation grant increase most years, ISDs do not. We don't receive funding in that way, and ISD funding has been flat, at least for the last 5 years. So, everybody's being asked to do more, but there's no more money coming to support that. I'm sure you've heard that or agree with that statement. Our teachers' contracts, we have 2 master contracts with our paraprofessionals and our teachers. This is year 2 of a 3-year agreement, so we're obligated to provide a 2% salary and wage increase. We're self-funded in our insurance plan, and we're just met with our insurance carrier today, and that's actually lower. We just found out that our increase is only going to be 3% for our health insurance, which is a great situation to have. I know many insurances, it depends, what kind of insurance plan you have. Our employees, I tip my hat to our employees. They have become very savvy consumers of their health insurance. So they stay in network when they can. They ask for generic prescription medications when they can. Lots of things contribute to that. I'm not going to go through all of that. I think you've seen some of the detail, but there's no, we are going through, I guess the biggest thing to tell you is that we are going through a renovation of our Blossom Land Learning Center. That project just kicked off on Monday. It's a 4-phase project. This first phase is $5.1 million. It's a 40-year-old facility. It's the first time it's been renovated. Our staff has done a fantastic job keeping everything working and running, but as you know, stuff just wears out after 40 years of use. So that project, the main phase of that started, like I said, on Monday, and the infrastructure, stuff you won't ever see probably, it's the HVAC work, flooring, lighting, I guess you'll notice that, but some of those major projects are being done, and that building will continue to be occupied during the construction, so it's a little bit more challenging. It's going to take a little longer to complete that project. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have. You have the general fund. The only resolution you're asked to pass is the general fund, and if you have any concerns or comments, we would just ask that if your board doesn't pass this resolution, we'd ask that you put your objections in writing, and our board will take those back to our board, and they will address those.
Yes, Vice President Gunn.
My question is about the special ed department. So not only do we have a special ed staff that is employed through extra staff, but you all provide some support to the district as well, right? How many employees from RESA actually work in the special education department?
She just left. I was just going to turn my head and ask her. Each district, we have assigned a social worker, school psychologist, speech therapist. So I could get that exact number to you, but we do have a team of people who are dedicated, and we do that for all the districts. So that's part of the millage that we collect. That's how we pay for those employees. So I can get that information, the exact number for you.
So you said social worker or counselor?
I'm not a school psychologist, counselor, speech language therapist.
And are they full-time?
Yes.
And how long have you been working in the district?
Oh, they've been here. I mean, we rotate our team members. I have to see who's been assigned to this district. I don't have their exact names, but they've been here all year long. I mean, they work with your special ed staff. They attend IEPs, they evaluate. Our role is primarily evaluation. So we'll get a referral for a student that may qualify for special education services, and we will assist your staff in evaluating.
Okay, so you could say that Risa kind of played a role in this non-compliance as well.
Well, some of the issues that I'm aware of in non-compliance that are meeting timelines, and that is clearly a district responsibility to meet timelines. I'd have to go back and actually look at all the non-compliance issues. I have that in a memo from the state of exactly what issues you are and what parts of special ed you are in non-compliance. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a person that cast blame. If it's a problem, let's fix it. And I don't think our staff is the one they don't schedule the IEPs, they attend the IEPs. So, for example, scheduling of IEPs would be your staff, the district staff.
All right, so I guess my concern was, the withholding of funds, being that, Risa is intertwined with our special education department. I guess I understand our responsibility and our role, but I guess I don't understand how it's not the responsibility of the department as a whole and everybody who works there. Because from what I thought I heard the last time that some of the students were identified with as needing an IEP, but they didn't need one, and it was, if I recollect, they were saying that they did not have social workers, counselors, or psychologists at the time of the meetings with those parents when they were saying that those kids needed to be put in the IEP. But I guess that's neither here or there. I'm not trying to place blame. I'm just trying to figure it all out here. Because we found out this through somebody who actually blew the whistle. We didn't find out through our staff that we were not compliant. And I was bigger than what, how much is actually being withheld from Risa for the program?
Well, it's just it's your excess fund. It's that last column. So it would, right now, until all these issues are resolved, it's the 294,000. We don't expect to withhold all of that, but we're just trying to cover the costs of the extra staff that we have to assign to this district to get your district back into compliance. So we've signed the memorandum of understanding with the district. Mrs. Robinson signed it. This is a very serious. Being out of persistent non-compliance is a very serious issue. We're trying to help staff get back into compliance. So, and then whatever fund, we're just covering our costs of the extra people that we have to sign. And I know your special ed department needs more help as well. They're understaffed as well. So we're just trying to find a way to get the district back into compliance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ivers.
Any more questions for Dr. Ivers at this time? Dr. Teasley, any comments? Okay, thank you. And I believe that the hold might have been mandated from the state. Is that correct?
Yes,
The hold on the funds.
Okay.
That did not come from local. I remember someone from the staff mandating that there was a hold on, if I'm correct. Okay, no more questions. We do have a resolution before us, and has all the board read the resolution? Okay, I will entertain a motion at this time to accept the general fund operating budget resolution, and whereas in accordance with section 38624 of the revised school code, that we're asking that this board accept this resolution. A motion?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the resolution presented by Baron Risa in accordance with section 380-624 of the revised school code.
Thank you. I need a support.
Support.
I do have a motion and a support. Any questions or concerns at this time? Or questions? If none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Lisa Scully,
Yes.
Martha Momini. She was there, she said she heard me and said yes, and I did.
Okay. So yes from Ms. Mosley.
Angelica McGowan, yes. Margaret Gass.
Yes.
Joseph Taylor.
Yes.
And Marletta Six.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Ivey. Okay, next item on the agenda is Berrien County fifth year early middle college resolution. Ms. Robinson, please.
Thank you. So this is the new resolution for the early middle school, middle college program that our students, we do have students participating in. So this is the new updated one for the 2021 school year. So this will show that the board will continue to support this effort in providing students an opportunity to receive a high school diploma and an associate's degree at the end of their fifth year. So last year it was just a one-year resolution. This one will be through 2021. And the resolution is attached.
Okay, thank you. Any questions at this time? Chair, a question. No questions from the board? Okay, so we do have a resolution for the fifth year early middle college Berrien Regional Education Service Agency for early education. I will entertain a motion at this time. And middle college, I'm sorry.
So, Madam President, make a motion that the Board of Education endorse the Berrien County fifth year early middle college through the completion of the 2018-2019 cohorts program of study, and that the board endorses the program as a best practice for eligible students within Berrien County.
Thank you. I have a motion and I need a support.
Support.
I have a motion and a support. Any questions or concerns at this time concerning the resolution? If not, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Marletta Six.
Yes.
Lisa Gully.
Yes.
Martha Momini. Angelica McGowan, yes. Margaret Gass.
Yes.
Joseph Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you.
I did hear her, she did.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Madam Secretary. Motion carries. At this time on the agenda, item number 4 is Business and Finance. Kim Lindsay, our finance report, please.
Good evening, board. Tonight you have the information for the month of March in front of you. Disbursements, the new budget actual report for the first 9 months of the school year. So as we kind of go through the tabs here, the general funds vendor payments for the month of March totaled $1,219,389.99. As you can see, our big vendors and their EduStaff, $291,000. Express also provides people for us. And then Troon had some bills with us this last month, and our utilities were almost $50,000 for the month. The 2007 Capital Projects Fund, very small amount of incoming or outgoing, and the incoming there are some old tax collections of personal property. So you'll see a total of $1,038 there, and then $518 in interest. One disbursement or a couple disbursements for $65.66, leaving $1,217,000 in that capital project fund from 2007. That's the old sinking fund. On the next tab is the current sinking fund. Same thing here, some collections of some delinquent taxes of about $1,950, some interest, and no disbursements in the month. So there's $1,247,919 available in that fund. We had some discussion about that at the last meeting. It's time to start getting this together. So on my secondary report, I'll talk briefly about that, maybe some thoughts there. Looking at the check register for the month, you can see it was a busy month writing checks and wires. So once again, the general fund had disbursements of $1,219,389. The food service fund had disbursements of $143,376. Most of that being the payment to Sodexo for providing the service. 2 checks in that 2007 capital projects fund totaling $65.66. And then the activity fund had disbursements of just under $15,800 for the month. Skip over the AP register, the AP listing, because that's not the correct one. All the show we are current on all the bills. The only one that's still out there is I'll talk about again in my next report having to do with the adult ed program. Then the year-to-date budget to actual information. So we're out here, this will be the 3rd column from the right. Year-to-date information, revenues, this is just the general fund. Revenues, $18,378,593. As you can see, we received most of our local funding, which most of that is property taxes. We're into the state aid payments, 7 months worth at this point. Federal grants of $2.3 million, and I'll talk about that in my next report as well. So work we did with Title I and Title II over the last several days. On the expenditure side of things, total expenditures through March were $16,085,653. So as you can see, that is excess revenues at this point of almost $2.3 million. And the majority of that is because of the fact we are staffing so many of our classrooms with substitute teachers. We have significant cost savings there. And there's also expenditures that will come along over the last 3 months on the payment of bonds and things like that that are not in there. So we're still in conformity with the budget. As part of this process we've been working through over the last 3 or 4 weeks with the staffing plan and everything, that will provide the final foundation for us to get the 18-19 budget proposed and out there to you guys so you can look at that, see if it makes sense to you, and also I'll pass it by Treasury. Questions? If not, you also have the utilities report. And if yours is like mine, it's sideways, so it's really tough to read. And as part of the plans we've been going through with the staffing plans, some of this will change as we go forward. If you potentially take some buildings offline. But we still have significant electrical, gas, and water costs for all the buildings of the district, some of which are closed, but still have small charges for things. Questions on the utility board?
Any questions from the board or Mr. Lindsay? No questions?
Well, then let me just give you a department update. We've been working diligently with the department on your title funding. Our advocate, or our person we're working with on the Title I and Title II programs, Andrea Nessel, spent half a day with us Thursday. We went through the current year Title I budget line for line and matched up our expenditures against those lines. She provided many suggestions on like things such as field trips and stuff that were out there. But the department has also allowed the budget to be reopened, which normally the last budget opening on Title I is at the end of January. We do have another window to make some final changes to that, which we will be doing by next Tuesday. Same thing with Title II. That one was quite clean. But what we're finding as we go through those grants is that we still are not fully able to utilize all the funds because a lot of the funding is for teacher positions. And the dollars that are built in there for the teachers is much more than the dollar we're paying for the subs. We're still going to get reimbursed for those subs through the grant, but it is causing us to not fully spend those funds, which I would love for you to do, because that's free money to you. The plan is to try and get expenditures to the point where we can carry over. The law only allows us a 15% carryover. We're trying to get to that number so that our carryover is, in essence, we don't give any money back. Not money that we receive, but grants that have been allocated to us. So that project has been consuming us this week, along with a few other projects. But last Friday, the next item, adult ed, Calhoun ISD is our fiscal agent for our adult ed funding. Connexus provides those services for the district. So at this point, the district has no money that actually comes to us. It comes through us. We're actually trading dollars for dollars. In the future, I think we should build some admin into that, since we're the ones that have to shuffle all the paper. The ISD builds admin into that number for them, so they have some money there. So I met with Calhoun ISD. We were able to reconcile all the way back to 14-15, all the funds coming in and out of the district. So we are in agreement with those dollars, except for one payment, which they were holding. The problem isn't so much on that side of it. The problem is on the expenditure side. So I'm now working with Connexus to make sure that the expenditures match up with dollars that have been received. So that I don't think we owe the ISD any funds, but we may owe Connexus funds on services they provide. So we are meeting actually tomorrow morning, the CFO and I from Connexus. So hopefully this one is going to be put to bed in the next week. Then lastly, actually as I sat here, the board commissioned the CMS group, not CMS services, but the CMS group back in, I believe, early March, to help us prioritize all of those evaluations we got on the buildings, especially as it relates to safety and security, so that we get some of the capital outlay that's set aside for us and the safety and security grant spent to do things. So they are going to get on a conference call with us a little later this week. But I did just get their email where they had prioritized many, many items. As you remember, there's $800,000 or so in that safety and security grant for capital outlay. 200 or so was just spent on the phone system upgrade that you approved at the last regular board meeting. We also have money in the sinking funds. So you have the two sinking funds are out there totaling a little over $2.4 million. So as part of what they've provided, what I'd really like us to do is to strategize as a group as to how you want to effectuate getting those funds spent, getting your buildings in a safe and secure mode, the ones that are remaining online. And as you know, board, from walking around your facilities, you have many doors and stuff that are in tough shape. So we're going to be going through that plan. We'll be providing some recommendations and then asking for you to approve a plan of action. But I think we're going to all have to collaborate on that. So we shall get that done as soon as we get a chance to digest the report, and we're supposed to be on the phone with them later this week. I guess it's going to be Thursday. Questions on that?
Mr. Taylor.
So thank you. Question from the last meeting concerning the Varian Foundation. So the question posed was, they're holding the money, right? And that money could be used for field trips, et cetera. Has there been a release on that funding?
So Mr. Taylor,
yes, sir.
We met with the Varian Foundation Tuesday, a week ago, correct? It was a week ago. And we were on their agenda. Harbor Area Schools was on their agenda for their meeting last Wednesday. I have not heard anything. I believe Superintendent Robinson has not heard anything yet either. I actually emailed yesterday morning as I had someone sitting in the finance office asking about funding for a trip that wants to take place, and they're a little short. I have not heard back from that. So I will follow up again tomorrow with a phone call to see if that funding is now freed up. And I think really when it comes down to it, once they're comfortable with us, it's a matter of us filling out the form properly to get the grant monies. They want to see what we're spending it for that matches up with the purpose, and then it can come back to us. So at this point, I'd like to say we have a resolution, but we do not have a resolution yet.
Yes, yes, Vice President.
What's the status of the FOP?
I'm still waiting on you guys to approve what you're going to do with the staffing plan. But that FOP will be developed as I think as we talked with everybody who was on the phone call last Friday morning, Treasury and Education and such. the RISA. The hope is that within the next 2 weeks, once the staffing plan is done, that we will be able to provide a sketch of the budget for 18-19, which will set that FOP really kind of in stone. That has to be approved by you, and then of course approved by Treasury as well before it's submitted.
Any more questions for Mr. Lindsay?
One more question. So when we look at the second bullet point of adult education, section 107 issue, because we've asked this question before, but now since we have a new mindset sitting in the seat, would it be feasible, and you don't have to answer this today, but maybe next week, for us to do our own adult education in this district? Because I think that we're paying people on the outside in this district for the county. Benton Harbor was the adult education center for, I don't know, maybe 30 years, right? So if you would just see if that's feasible. We've been told it's not, but since we have a new mindset, new eyes.
And actually, Mr. Taylor, a couple weeks ago, I researched this state aid section to find out the requirements. The requirements are relatively robust. So the idea, if we were to do this, and as I talked with Calhoun ISD last Friday, so the way the Section 107 money is dealt out around the state, there are 12 what they call prosperity regions. So Calhoun doesn't just do Berrien, they do a circle of counties around them. I believe that we are the only ones who are not providing our own adulthood. We're the only ones who are contracting it out. Now, whether we can do it or not, I'll leave that up to you guys when you look at some of the requirements. But this is money that, like I said, we have no benefit of. It's coming in to our pocket and going out in the form of a check to our provider. So it's a good question.
But you mentioned something that's, makes me think, because you said we're the only ones not doing it. So that's a smudge on our face if you ask me, right? Because it's got to be, what is the issue?
Yeah, I think to do it would require some partnerships to figure out, maybe we could share a person with somebody, because there has to be there's a leader, there's certain things dealt out in the law to make us be able to do it. So I'd be glad to provide that to everyone.
Okay, no more questions? Thank you. Next item on the agenda, human resources, Kelly Natchez, please.
Good evening, board. Thanks. First up, we have the resolution approving the employment contract for our interim superintendent. And I will read that resolution. Whereas the district superintendent of schools, Dr. Shelley Walker, resigned to pursue other career opportunities effective April 10th, 2018. Whereas pursuant to Section 8J of the consent agreement with the state treasurer, the district must hire a new superintendent to replace former superintendent, Dr. Shelley Walker, subject to the state treasurer's approval. Whereas on April 9th, 2018, this board appointed Assistant Superintendent Patricia Robinson as interim superintendent for the period beginning April 10th, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. The board may terminate this contract prior to June 30th, 2019. Whereas the board has instructed its attorneys, Troon Law Firm, PC, to prepare an addendum to Assistant Superintendent Patricia Robinson's current contract of employment, covering the period of April 10th, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Mrs. Robinson will be compensated at the rate of $125,000, and her benefits shall continue while she serves in this position. A copy of that contract addendum is attached hereto as attachment A. Now therefore be it resolved that 1, the contract addendum of Assistant Superintendent Patricia Robinson be and is hereby approved. 2, all resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with this resolution shall be and the same are rescinded.
Thank you, Ms. Baptist. We do have a resolution approving employment contract for Ms. Robinson. I will entertain a motion at this time to support.
So moved.
I have a motion. I need a second, please.
Support.
I have a motion and a support. Any questions or comments? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Angelica McCowen, yes. Margaret Gass,
Yes.
Joseph Taylor,
Yes.
Martha Momini, Lisa Gullett,
Yes.
and Marletta Six.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, Ms. Baptist, please. Instructional facilitator job descriptions.
I do have a staff report. Subject is instructional facilitator position. Reason for board consideration. The board must vote for the approval of a new position. Facts and analysis. With the director of curriculum position being eliminated, the district is still in need of someone to support both the students and teachers. The job description is attached there to your agenda for your review. And the recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to create the instructional facilitator position beginning with the 2018-2019 school year.
Thank you, Ms. Baptist. We do have a recommended action for a instructional facilitator position. I will entertain a motion at this time.
Madam President, I recommend or make a motion that the board vote to eliminate the partnership accountability position beginning with the 2018-2019 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I need support.
That's
the one. We're at the regular curriculum, Mr. Taylor. I knew you read something. I was looking for it.
I got my motion in order.
Okay, we will strike that motion. And I will entertain a motion for staff report number 1 and instructional facilitator position, Mr. Taylor.
I entertain a motion to accept staff report number 1.
I do have a motion for staff report number 1. I need a second.
Support.
I have a motion and a support. Any questions or concerns? If none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Lisa Gullett. Yes. Martha Momini. Angelica McCowen, yes. Margaret Gass,
Yes.
Joseph Taylor,
Yes.
Marletta Six.
Yes, thank you. Staff report number 1 passes. Next item on the agenda, Ms. Baptist.
Okay, staff report 2, partnership accountability assistant position. Reason for board consideration, the board must vote for the elimination of the partnership accountability assistant position. Facts and analysis, due to the financial constraints of the district, expenditures must be reduced for the 2018-2019 school year. The recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to eliminate the partnership accountability assistant position beginning with the 2018-19 school year.
Thank you, Ms. Baptist. I need to entertain a motion to support staff report number 2.
I move that we support staff report number 2 that would eliminate the partnership accountability assistant position beginning with the 2018-2019 school year.
I have a motion of acceptance for staff report number 2. I need a motion to support this.
Support.
I have a motion and a support. Any questions or comments at this time? If none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Joseph Taylor,
Yes.
Margaret Gass,
Yes.
Angelica McCowen, yes. Martha Momini, Lisa Gullett,
Yes.
and Marletta Six.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Baptist, staff report number 3, please.
Number 3, non-bargaining staff transfers. Reason for board consideration, the board must vote for transfer of non-bargaining staff. Facts and analysis. Due to financial constraints and program restructuring, the The following non-bargaining staff will be transferred. Deb Balbo from partnership accountability position to a teaching position within the bargaining unit. Brian Scoggin from the director of curriculum position to the instructional facilitator position. Rita CA from principal / safety grant position to a 504 IEP coordinator. And Sharonda Pearson from assistant principal position to a teaching position within the bargaining unit. The recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to transfer the aforementioned staff.
Thank you, Ms. Baptist. Staff report number 3 has been read. For our consideration for non-bargaining staff transfer, I will accept a motion for acceptance of staff report number 3.
So moved.
I have a motion and I need a support.
Support.
I have a motion and a support. Any questions or comments at this time? If none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Angelica McCowan, yes. Margaret Gass.
Yes.
Martha Mumby. Yes. Lisa Gully.
Yes.
Joseph Taylor.
Yes.
And Marletta Seats.
Yes. Thank you. Staff report number 3 passes. Next item on the agenda, employment updates. Ms. Baptist.
Okay, I'm going to share my regular employment updates with you. As you look at the current openings, you'll see that with some of the transfers you've approved, some of our vacancies are now filled or would be filled for next school year. We still do have long-term subs helping us out for this school year. There are 2 resignations listed there. I will bring those to you next week in a staff report. In terms of upcoming events, we do have Davenport University coming to present to our long-term subs and/or staff members who are interested in continuing education, particularly for our subs, if they are interested in teacher certification. This program provides an alternative route. So we've given them a presentation from Teachers of Tomorrow as an option. And then Davenport has programs specifically in urban education. So leadership in urban education, grad certificate in urban education, and a master's of science in urban education. So we want to provide them with opportunities for those who have expressed interest in career change and coming to the field of education. So that will happen in a few weeks. My schedule of recruitment is there. As you see, I have 1 left, and that will be this Friday at Wayne State University. I am going to have you click on the updates link, my recruiting updates. And as I shared with you last month, I will just continue this as a running list. You can click on the links to look at pictures of the events. You'll see who attended with me or Kayla from HR. And then just some data in terms of permission. We'll get that worked out. You can send that to me in the morning. Okay. We'll get that worked out. You'll be able to see those lovely pictures of our table and Tiger Pride at these colleges. But the most important data is here in terms of who we are able to speak with, resumes that were collected, interviews that were scheduled as a result of this Michigan College tour and then the other universities as well. So I'm going to go back to my employment updates, skip around just a bit to the bottom to let you know that so far this week we've conducted 4 interviews of candidates from the Michigan Schools tour. Those have been in math, 2 elementary, and in social studies. And then for the remainder of this week and next week, we do have 20 interviews scheduled with candidates from these programs as well.
Any questions for Ms. Baptist?
I didn't see, so you don't consider because I see on this website, the athletic director is listed, but not on this.
Yes, that would just be an oversight I need to add to this list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all I need to mark it.
I have a question. Are the interviews scheduled across the board, sort of spread out across the board from these Michigan schools, or are you finding that we do better at some schools than others in terms of interested students.
Yeah, I definitely saw a difference. So Western, I would say, was the strongest school that I visited. We'll see what happens with Wayne State, but definitely Western. We scheduled the most interviews from that school. Central was slow this year. I found better success last year, which was interesting. And Michigan State was also better this year as well. I'd say those two. Eastern was slow. U of M kind of slow as well.
Any more questions or comments for Ms. Baptist?
Good job.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
So depending on how this goes, which I'm hoping, success, I might be requesting a special session for hiring, so we don't have to wait until June.
Absolutely.
Put that out there.
Thank you. So we are looking at math teachers. We have some.
I've done 2 so far.
2.
One today.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Next item on the agenda, item 6 for board business. We have Neola policy updates. If you all will look at those updates, and then we will have it on the agenda for next week for approval. And since it is lengthy,
it's lengthy, and the notes and all, you've got the handout with them so that you can read them and the notes and what's been requested by the different department heads have been put on there. So next week I'll do a staff report with each policy and yay or nay for those.
okay, we can walk through that next week. Thank you. Okay, item number 7, collaboration, RE partnership agreement. And we do not have Ms. Momley present, so we will drop down to item 8, the Benton Harbor Area Schools District Partnership Agreement update. Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. So the partnership agreement update is attached below. There is data at the bottom that tracks the process or progress of the partners, how we're faring in meeting our activities or goals in instruction, leadership, social, and well-being. So those are attached. I do just want to kind of, in there is an attachment to the quarterly meeting that was held April 23rd, so there's some minutes there, and you can read through those. We did have that meeting. Partners were able to kind of stand up and voice how they're supporting the district currently, projects that they're working on. Much of the next steps that were identified in that meeting were focused around the academic goal. And those activities, initiatives are listed in those minutes. And then the PowerPoint is also attached so that you can review what data was shared and the more details about where we're heading academically. And so that's pretty much it on the partnership agreement. These updates come monthly.
Any questions from the board?
Can I make a comment?
You may.
I just like to emphasize to the board, when people ask you, where's the vision, where's the district going? I mean, it's laid out real specific in the partnership agreement. And it's no secret, I mean, so know that, there is a plan, there is a vision for the district. It has been done in collaboration with external entities, but it's out there. And
I think what happens, Superintendent Scott, is a lot of people don't have access to the internet and sometimes in this area. So sometimes we send them something in writing, because that's been part of our policy, because we lack communication with community members, ask questions. So we take for granted that everybody has access to the website. So that's why.
Well, one of the things that you can do is you can have hard copies in the central office. But I just want to make it clear to you that you have a vision for Benton Harbor area schools. It's laid out explicitly, and you've been working towards that. So, when someone approaches you with that, just know that you have that.
Thank you. Any other comments? I have no comment at this time. Superintendent, do you have any comments?
I just want to thank my team and the board for all the work over these past couple of days. And it does continue, so thank you.
Thank you. Let's start with Trustee Taylor. Comment?
No comments tonight.
Trustee Gass?
No comments.
Trustee McGowan,
No comments.
Vice President,
No comments.
we have no comments. I will be, I did get your text concerning the walkthrough tomorrow. And, I think we will, what we're trying to do, trustee just asked me about, what we talked about committees. I have not gotten permission for a committee, and I think all board members should participate and have an opportunity to participate in all building decision-making. And we will set out a schedule to see what the availability is. I will request somebody for tomorrow for Abbey Marsh, and I believe, to go through the third floor at the high school in MLK, and that's at 1 o'clock. So if you will send that out, and as long as we don't have 4 board members, we can participate. Yes, ma'am.
Our key fob.
And our key fobs. Oh, Bud's shaking his head because he has denied us access to all of the facility. Yeah, he turned us on. So thank you, Bud, for that. So we'll see you after the meeting. So if there are no comments, announcements, or reminders at this time, the announcement, yes, Ms. Baptist.
Just wanted to let you guys know that link should work down so you can look at the pictures of the recruiting.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I will entertain a motion for adjournment at this time at 7:37.
I make a motion to move this speedy meeting tonight, and I thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will entertain a second. Okay, I have a motion and a support for adjournment for this meeting. Madam Secretary, please call the roll. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And Joseph Taylor.
Yes.
And it was not Bud's fault. Thank you.